Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Ducks Unlimited. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Be in Memphis. That's where we'll be.
Yes.
Hope to see you there.
You're going to put them dates out there, but you didn't know, huh?
I don't know.
I think it's first weekend in August.
Summertime. We'll be there.
I think it's first weekend in August. Let me look it up real quick.
Anyway, we'll be there. All right, on with us today, Mr. Skyler Eades, Austin, Texas, bodybuilder extraordinaire.
August 1st through 3rd.
What is it? Is it bulking season or is it cutting season? What are we doing?
It is definitely bulking season. We went on stage. My last competition was last July. We stepped on stage. We placed. I got a first, a third, and a fourth in all the divisions that I entered, and I still was 23 pounds under weight cap. So my coach is like, "We're just going to take all 2025 off and grow."
What is it?
So hold on now.
What's
you're
funner,
losing
though?
weight?
No, he's gaining weight.
So you're going to gain 20. Well, God, that'd be fun to do.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Is
It would
it
be
fun?
for me.
Is
It's
it
not.
fun to do? It's not fun, right?
No. The amount of food that I have to eat, because it has to be clean.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of food is ridiculous. It's retarded.
So what are you eating on a day as a bodybuilder?
Right now on training days, I'm eating 3,800 calories, 3,900 calories. 5 meals a day. First meal looks like oats, protein powder. Second meal is ground beef, like 185 grams of ground beef, 300 grams of rice. My post-workout meal, which is meal 3, is 185 grams of chicken, 400 grams of rice.
Hold on. For all the dummies and old people like me, what the fuck is a gram? Is that like a dump truck load? I mean, let's go to ounces. At least I understand that.
Or
pounds.
or how many chicken breasts or anything
Yeah, or
like
something.
that?
I mean, this grams.
So I eat about two full chicken breasts during my chicken meals, and then a good 10-ounce steak worth of beef in my beef meals.
Okay, I can understand that. Grams, like throwing meters out there. I freaking lost. So
as an ex-drug dealer, grams are really easy for me.
that is probably true.
Seamless transition.
So you eat 5 meals a day.
Yes.
Now that the breakfast is it like oatmeal or just boil
Yeah,
water?
I mean, it's just regular steel cut oats, microwaved in water with protein powder thrown in, and sometimes I get the opportunity to throw some fruit in there.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's not like he's eating cheeseburgers and pizza and not like a fun kind of gain weight.
No, not at all. I do occasionally get to go out and enjoy whatever the hell I want, which is nice. But at one point that was like really detrimental to me as well. By that, I mean, when I came out of my show, because I've been during prep, you're so strict, you're so restricted on what you can eat, and down to the point of not just food, but water, sodium, potassium, all of these things you have to track on a daily basis. When I came out of prep and had my competition, my coach was like, "Okay, you're allowed to have one free meal a week," and that one free meal like sent me off onto benders basically when it came to food.
Oh,
What was your free meal? What did you have?
So my go-to is sushi every time. It's probably the cleanest cheat meal you can eat. But after my show, I went to Hop Dottie's. I crushed 2 burgers, 2 full order of fries. After inhaling about four voodoo donuts. And then later on that night, a couple hours later, I think we went and got tacos. So I made myself completely sick and miserable after my show.
I bet you stayed on the toilet for a long damn time. Woof.
It was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad.
I could imagine that.
yeah, your body's just not used to like, what the fuck do I do with this now? I've had chicken and rice for however long, and you want me to process this?
I see your pictures on Facebook, and it just blows my mind that the chubby kid that lived down the block from me now is built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, look, that chubby kid that y'all probably still see is the same one I see every time I look in the mirror.
He looks
It's just part of it. It adds to my fuel.
Yeah. I did a 3-day water fast, and I'm kind of like you. When I finally got to eat again, I was like, oh dear God, please let's just have something kind of bland and let's ease our way back into this. Cause yeah, with nothing in your stomach. I did not want to
have that mentality. When I came out of my show, I was like, whatever I can get my hands on, let's get it down.
I just didn't want to be shitting my guts out. I didn't want to be peeing out of my butt.
I fasted today I'm on fasting hour number 4 right now.
What time is it?
I don't know, like 10:30.
Oh.
About 6:30 this morning, I had a piece of cinnamon bread from Pepperidge Farms. Just nothing, no butter on it though. So I'm cutting down. I just had one slice of bread.
There you go.
That's my breakfast with a cup of tea in the morning.
There you go.
So see, I'm on a 4 hours fast. I can't do like you guys do.
Skyler's not fasting. Are you, Skyler?
No, he's eating like crazy now, but he goes through this fasting shit. So the kid down the street from me was always a good kid, really good kid. He was always polite, good kid. I always liked the hell out of you. You got into some trouble when you got out of high school. And that's
a bit of an understatement.
I never ever could have imagined you. A lot of the other kids that my boys were friends with, I could see doing this, but I never would have imagined you ever getting into trouble with drugs. So how did this all take place?
So I think the biggest thing like that contributed to this, to like me getting involved in drugs in the beginning, was the fact that I simply didn't leave my hometown. I decided that I was going to do online school and stay at the house and, continue try to get my degree through WTC online until I had enough credits where I had to go to big boy school. And doing that, I basically got sucked into the black hole that some kids tend to fall into around those small towns, which is now I'm involved with guys that never left because they fell into the same thing. And so now I'm involved with guys that are all smoking pot and drinking. And of course, in high school, like we drank, shit, me and Zach, we said we were going camping. We were probably dying in a field of alcohol poisoning at some point.
Yeah, I think that was pretty normal.
Yeah.
But and I knew that the whole time. I wasn't stupid.
Oh, we know. We know. Then, I don't know, it escalated. It started off like I started drinking all the time, smoking pot every day when I got off work at Penman's, because I was working at Penman's for some god-awful reason. And then my mom started getting pissed with me because I was screwing off and wasn't doing what I was supposed to, which very understandably so. And got to the point where I was tired of listening to it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go do what I want. Ended up getting involved with the wrong people. And I think before my 19th birthday, I was already pretty heavy into like methamphetamines. It escalated very quickly. One of the things about me is that I've always had I'm all in mentality. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it big. And that mentality took me straight into the darkest depths of what drug addiction can be.
I think you said it best a minute ago. I think one of the big problems in a small town, or any town, it can be a big town too, is the 23 to 27-year-old kid that never ever leaves and is hanging out with 16-year-old kids.
Yep.
Because he's not accountable for anything. Most of the times he's either somehow managed to have his own apartment or something, and these other kids go over there and he provides alcohol and drugs. And so I think that's a gateway for a lot of kids. And I do think that's a big issue, is kids that graduate, and especially in small towns, you're right. They graduate and they never leave here. And that's not good.
Hey, hold on just a second, Skyler. Can you throw in, do you have a set of headphones that you can throw on real quick?
Yeah, let me go grab them real quick.
So you started out drinking pot. Did you do anything else, or was it straight from pot and then straight to methamphetamine?
I dabbled with coke every now and then if it kind of showed up. So I started running around with a bunch of guys from Quanah, Texas, and I got really into ranch rodeos. Just watching Zach and Brandon in high school, they were always involved with horses and stuff, and it was always something that I did in the past with my granddad that I wanted to get back involved with. So when this group of guys showed up and they're like, hey, we cowboy out in Quanah, you should come with us. That was the introduction into the group that was like, we do meth, and if you're going to hang with us, you're going to do it too, kind of deal. And I say that in a way that they forced me to, but they didn't force me to do anything.
Right.
As soon as it showed up, I was like, okay, let's try this. Let's see what happens. And what's crazy is for the first time after I got high on meth, my mind told me this is what normal people are supposed to feel like. Like all of the voices in the head go away, all the like problems with self-confidence, which is something I always had in high school, being like growing up the fat kid. You know, in junior high, I was 5'3" and probably 150, 160 pounds. I looked like a fucking butterball turkey running around. And the self-confidence just was never there. And let me tell you, as soon as the meth hit my system, it was like, I am God's gift to earth.
Really? That good?
I am the fucking man, and there's not shit you can say to change my mind.
How long would that high last?
The first couple of times, about 12, 14 hours.
Oh my God.
But after that, it went from, I'm doing this to get high. Now I'm just doing this to maintain and feel somewhat half human.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I've always been told you can't ever, the first high, you can never get as high as you were the first time on meth. Is that true?
Very true. Same thing with heroin too. I mean, any drug is really kind of that way. Your body builds up a tolerance and it's never the same. You're always just chasing that first high again. What? And I spent 11, 12 years stuck in that loop.
That's a long time. Like you're lucky, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, I didn't get involved in heroin until I was probably 24, 25. So heroin came a lot later. But once I found heroin, that was when I was always pretty functional as just a meth addict. Like I could smoke, do my drugs in the morning and go to work. Worked in, you know, oil field, whatever I was involved in at the time. And I could maintain and function pretty well. Did it for a long time. And then once I graduated to like heroin and Xanax and meth and all of these different combinations of drugs that I was putting into my body, the functional was out of the question. You know, and that's when shit got really bad and really dark.
Right. So my question is, cocaine's a fairly expensive drug. Like, how do these young people, how do we have the money to fund our cocaine habit?
We know how girls do it, but we don't know how ugly men do it. That's what Andy's trying to ask.
My thing was manipulation. I would manipulate family. I would manipulate friends. I would manipulate friends' families. To get whatever money I could, or the people I was around, right? I would strategically place myself around people who were semi-involved in drugs because they typically had the money to pay for them. Mm-hmm. So I could scam them, give them just enough for them to be happy, and then the rest is mine.
Right.
And that's kind of how I got into the whole drug dealing aspect too. You know, I figured out that I could make what I needed off this. So then I started getting involved in that, which escalated again into the all or nothing mentality, to the point where now I'm getting my doors kicked in. I'm going to jail repeatedly over and over again.
How many
charge after charge.
How many times were you arrested?
6, I believe.
What's the strongest ain't the word. What's the most severe penalty you had? What's the biggest jail time?
Probably Tom Green County, San Angelo. By the way, don't ever go to jail in Tom Green County. That's miserable there. But I was there for like almost a month, a little over a month. Simply because 1, I was waiting to find out if they were even going to give me a bond. And 2, they were trying to stack charges up on me because I was already on probation out of Stevens County. I had already caught another charge in Shackelford County. Then, so all of those all have their own charges to go with them, along with the motion to revokes that come with my probation. So I sat in Tom Green for a while on a gun charge and a dope charge. They ended up dropping the dope charge and just giving me the weapons charge, which at this point I had like a very, very good criminal defense attorney. Because at this point, when I was fighting that case, I'd already kind of turned my shit around and was like, okay, I'm done with this. The last like 4 months, 5 months of my addiction, went to Shackelford twice. I got arrested twice in Shackelford. and then Tom Green, and then a motion to revoke to go walk through in Stevens County. Excuse me. I also ended up in Hayes County, which that was terrible too.
I don't even know where Hayes County. That's down by Fort Worth. I mean, down by Houston, isn't it?
No, that's San Marcos, right outside of like in between San Antonio and Austin. Right. I got caught up there at the Texas State University. I'm one of the only people I know that has a criminal ban and like basically can't cross property lines from Texas State University, which is a huge party school.
Yeah, that's what it's known for. West Tech. It used to be called. It used to be West Tech, or not West Tech. It used to be
Texas State.
Yeah, but it used to be something else. I can't remember the damn name of it. But it was a part when I was in school. It wasn't Texas State. It was. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, yes, it is a party school. And
I am banned. I'm not allowed to step foot on that property or that campus.
You better hope your kid doesn't go to school there. It'd be hard moving them in.
So what's the biggest amount of dope they had on you when they caught you?
They caught me with 57 grams one time.
So intent to distribute.
That's a little over an ounce and a half.
But that was enough.
Around an ounce and a half.
That was enough for intent to distribute charges in.
Oh no, I wasn't the smartest drug dealer, but I was okay at it. Because if I'd have been great, maybe I wouldn't have gotten locked up. But thank God I wasn't.
Right.
I always kept everything separate, so like my drugs would be over here, and the scales and everything would be in another room. So they just, and of course I've always pleaded the old story of like, well, if you buy in bulk, it's cheaper, you know. It's all for me.
Right.
What's the biggest profit you ever made on a deal? Oh, like $6 grand at one point, like in one move.
So you were buying it, cutting it, and selling it.
I never cut anything. I was getting it cheap enough to where I didn't have to do that. I mean, at one point I was getting, and I'm going to bring grams back, but I was getting a gram of meth for like $7 that I could turn around and sell for either 50 to 100, depending on who's buying it.
Profit maker.
Oh, as a numbers person, there's no doubt about it. It's just you're dealing
the fast money is there, and
yeah.
that has a lot of the addictive shit that goes along with it. Is like being able to make that money that quickly and that easily. It gets its hooks in you about as bad as the drugs do.
Right.
The problem is you're dealing with dope heads.
Not much loyalty there.
No, and they'll lie and steal and cheat, do everything they can to get their drugs, and that's what.
And what's crazy to me is like when I first started selling drugs back in like 2012, it wasn't like that. There was still like, oh, we're against law enforcement. Like it's us versus them. Right. And by like 2016, 2017, it was not like that anymore. Now you got little dope heads that are in league with the law enforcement that are all against the dealers, and all the dealers are against each other now. And it just became chaotic, grimy, and just gross to deal with people.
No honor among thieves and dope heads.
Nope.
When you were kind of on this downhill descent, did you ever see kind of did you ever have like a moment where you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Or did it have its hooks into you so bad that you just dismissed all of that?
No, there were several of those moments. In fact, I can recall a couple of them. One of the worst ones was I decided that I was going to trip on shrooms really hard one night. And I made the mistake of going and looking at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And of course I was like Skeletor. I probably weighed $170, $160. And I just remember looking at myself and going, you are disgusting. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And of course I always had that revelation when I was like in jail too. But I mean, as soon as I got out and before I went to treatment and got into recovery, like there was no solution for me. The only solution I ever knew was drugs. Like that was the go-to. That's what made me feel normal for the longest time. And it was simply just because, and I didn't figure this out until I went to treatment, that I was missing a component in my life that left this giant hollow place inside of me. And that missing component was simply just a relationship with God.
Right. So I've got two young boys, 10 and 6, and like what, as a warning to like parents, like what could have been different in your life? Because you always said like you never felt like you had worth. But I mean, I know your family and I know your mom, and like I doubt that she was ever telling you, hey, you're just a fat piece of shit, right? Like that was just all something that you came up with in your own head.
Yes. A lot of it for me personally was daddy issues.
Right.
You know, my biological father was never in the picture. And, you know, my mom went through a couple of bad marriages that weren't very good to me either. And, you know, like you said, you know, my mom built my self-confidence up way more than she probably should have.
Yeah, she does that with everybody.
Yeah, and she you know, she's always been my biggest supporter, my biggest cheerleader. But at that time, it's like, you know, 17, 18 years old, you're like, oh, mom, it's gross. I don't, whatever. Once I lost my granddad, when my granddad passed away, my mom swears that was when the flip switched and I went off the deep end. You know, I lost the only stable, strong male influence that was around me my entire life. And of course, I had other strong male influences. I had, you know, Coach Steele, Jeff. You know, I had very strong male role models around me, but I was so bent out of shape at the fact that my own dad wasn't around and didn't want me that it was never enough for me, which that's all reflection on me, right? I have these great male role models around me, but they're not good enough because my own father didn't want me.
I don't think that's reflective on you at all. I think that's human nature. I think that's not that uncommon. I think that's why you see such a problem in the ghetto areas or whatever you want to call it, where there's just moms. There's no dads around anywhere, and those kids, and those kids get preyed upon by these people slinging dope. These older guys that have the way, that have money, and they've got this, and they got the girls, and them guys like, hey, that's cool, because they don't have a father figure to do any different. So I don't think that's on you at all. And I talked to your mom at the post office yesterday, and I told her that we were going to have you on, and she was excited, and she almost cried just talking about how proud she was of you. But as a parent, I know you put your mom through the depths of hell through this, but it's all forgiven, and she's just so helpful and great. She's so grateful all her prayers were answered, and you where you are now. And now
for sure,
you can be a vessel for someone else that's going through this, so they don't put themselves as, you're really lucky. A lot of guys don't ever get out of prison,
especially after a decade of drug use.
I mean, and
you know, there was at one point they were offering me, my first charge, they were offering me 19 years, was like in state penitentiary. Mind you, I'm still on probation for that charge. My attorney ended up getting them down to probation for me. But when they went to go my motion to adjudicate, they were offering me like 25 to life almost.
Fuck.
What was it for?
The motion to the charge that I got put on probation was just the dope charge, the big one that I caught. They kicked my door in these, like, you know, Section 8 apartments in Breckenridge, Texas. Sheriff's City Task Force kicked my door in, caught me with a bunch of dope, caught me with a bunch of Xanax, hydrocodone, Molly. They caught me with everything you could think under the sun. Like a little over a pound of weed, but they ended up dropping all the other charges except for the dope charge, because Breckenridge is very heavy on, like, we're going to throw these guys under the jail because dope is a huge, huge problem in Breckenridge, Texas. So they tried to throw the book at me, and luckily my attorney was able to get me off on probation, but not like big boy probation. It's 10 years probation. I can't even think of the name right now. But 10 years deferred probation, basically meaning that if I fuck up in 10 years, that they're going to give me 20 to whatever they want. Like, it's going to double my sentence, guaranteed.
Right. Yeah, they're holding it over your head that you don't, it's exactly right.
And so when I caught that first charge, when I left the courtroom, I was like, yeah, they're going to have to fucking catch me. Like, fuck this. And so I went right back to doing what I was doing. And I was like, I've been doing this for almost 10 years. This is like one of the first charges I've caught. I can do another 10 years easy. Like, they're going to have to catch me. And so I'd already had it in my mind that I was either going to end up dead or in prison. And at that point, I started running around with a bunch of guys that were involved in Aryan Circle.
Oh.
And so when I started running around with them, got to talking to them, they're like, dude, look, if you're going to end up in the penitentiary, you might as well get down with us. You might as well do this, do that. And of course, it's like they saw I could sell drugs. They saw I could move weight. And so they picked me up. And I did the whole prospecting, everything.
So they were recruiting you before you even got to prison.
Like, you're going to jail you're probably going to end up in jail. You might as well ride with us and have some stripes before you get in there.
Yeah, and I mean, because I could make the money. Like, that was it. When I talk about like I could get it that cheap, that's the reason I could, was because it was family discount.
Family discount.
But at the same, yeah. And it was just, dude, they saw a young white guy that, was kind of headstrong and a little throwed off in the head that can make money. And they're like, well, he'd be good to use. And so they did. I bought into it. At that time, I felt like they were the only guys that understood who I was or what I was about.
Yeah. What's the prospect stage like?
It's 2 years of basically having an older white dude run you through the ringer. Basically, whatever they need done, you do. No questions asked. You have to follow everything by the letter. In fact, I got into some trouble twice while I was prospecting, and like had to get my ass beat by multiple guys at one time.
Oh shit!
Yeah, my wife has horror stories of this, because at that time we were still just dating, and I'd come home just like split open, blood everywhere, and like it was bad.
How hard was it to get out?
I guess technically it would be hard if I did it the proper way, but I went to rehab and I told all of them, like, look, dude, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I have a family, and honestly, if we're living by what y'all's constitution says, I have to get my shit together. And so that's just where I'm at now.
So you just did it. You asked for forgiveness.
Pretty much. I just there's if you look at it from their mindset, I can't be a good member for them if I'm still fucking up too.
Mm-hmm.
And so they let me go on my way. I've been down here in Austin. I haven't had any relations with them. I've talked to a couple of guys that are still involved with them, and apparently it's all going to shit too. So,
right. So do you know that you're about to catch a beating? Like, you got caught up and like, okay, they tell you like, all right, come on down and we're going to run you through the gauntlet.
Yep. Pretty much.
Oof.
Pretty much.
And then it's just haymakers and everything else, just beat you to a pulp and let you go. You get knocked down, they pick you back up. They'll hold you for about 2 seconds so you can stand there yourself, and it's back at it for an undisclosed amount of time. Did you ever have to beat anybody, or did you not graduate to that level? You did?
No, yeah.
Does that?
It's not fun. It's actually pretty miserable. I still have a lot of like guilt around that.
Yeah.
One instance, like for sure, this guy had gotten in a lot of trouble for drugs and stuff as well, and he got caught up with the police, and so they were like, all right, well, we need to handle this. So they called me and a buddy of mine. They're like, we need you to go over here, handle this. And we're like, okay. So we meet up, and there's a whole group of us there, and we ran 1 minute and 45 seconds against him, and by the end of it, one of us was just literally holding him up while the other one was just beating the fuck out of him.
That's a tough world to be in. And the guy that's the head guy went through the same shit to get to where he's at too.
So what's the thinking?
Oh yeah.
What's the thinking though?
Probably worse.
If we beat them enough, they won't get. I mean, it's not like you're trying to get caught by the police. You know what I mean?
It's
discipline.
Well, yeah, discipline. That's literally what it's called. It's called a D. You're running a discipline. Same concept as when you spank your kids when they screw up. It's just a more of a men mentality mindset around it. The Constitution that is like basically states how a member of this organization is supposed to act if you don't follow it. And one of them being, you're not supposed to be on drugs.
Oh,
Like it states clearly in there, you're not supposed to be.
oh,
We are supposed to, they're supposed to be of right mind and heart.
yeah.
Mind you, just like everybody in America, they skate by the Constitution. And when they get caught up, they get in trouble. And so it's like, well, maybe if we beat you bad enough, you'll quit fucking up.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. So were you valedictorian or salutatorian in your class?
I was third.
Third?
So
I knew you were up there.
Clay was valedictorian. Brittany Gonzalez took salutatorian.
Okay. I knew that you were up there though. I knew you were close.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you were always a smart kid, and I guess that's how you did this for so long.
It definitely helped. Because let's be honest, like I never cracked a book in high school. Most of it was common sense and just listening to what the teacher told you. And because I pay attention to everything and I can absorb things like that, test taking and homework was always really easy to me. In fact, the only reason most of my grades ever slipped was just because I didn't do homework.
Yeah.
I was one of those kids in the hall during like our 15-minute break period between third and fourth period doing the last of my math homework because I didn't do it the night before because I didn't want to.
Yeah, it was easy for you.
If you'd have stayed sober, could you imagine the amount of money you'd have made selling drugs?
No, I don't want to imagine it, to be honest.
Well, yeah, that's probably true, but
little kick in the teeth right there.
Good job, Jeff.
It's amazing though how many people that I know that got caught up in this world are really intelligent people. A friend of mine passed away a couple years ago, and he cooked dope and did everything, and he's a friend of mine. He was a great
Fucking
guy.
chemist.
A damn chemist. He was smart as hell, but just took the wrong path.
Yeah, man. Working in treatment. So after I got sober, I went to work in treatment and have been there until I broke off and to start my like fitness stuff and my CPT stuff. But some of the guys that I would have come through there are some of the most brilliant and intelligent people that I know that just didn't have things taught to them the way they needed to as a kid for them to use, if that makes sense.
It makes tons of sense. You got to have someone that's been there, that's been exposed to something to expose you. Because it's amazing.
I used to say all the time that if you took a lifetime supply of drugs and put it behind a locked door, and you showed these heroin meth addicts like, hey, if you cure cancer, we'll let you in that door. You'd have it cured by tomorrow.
That's what's amazing about the kids that live in the housing projects and stuff. No one around them ever gets out. And so it's not a shock that they continue the same cycle over and over and over again, because there's no one to tell them that they can do better. And I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I've known so many people had so much potential, but they never had anybody to help push them in the right direction, whether it be college or a trade school or, don't sell dope, don't take methamphetamines. That's what shocks me about you taking meth. You're a smart kid. I've never understood, of all the drugs in the whole world, how someone chooses to take meth. I understand. I've never done a drug in my life, and I can swear on a Bible of that. And I probably would have been a damn good doper, because there is nothing better than a hydrocodone when you hurt yourself. Well, that's a good feeling in the world for me. So I could have been.
That's what set me off in the beginning. My knee surgery, when my 18 years old, my knee surgery when I tore my knee against Chillicothe.
Yep.
Man, that was my first experience with like addict mentality, because my mom, of course, she was naive to everything back then, which, of course she was. She wasn't ever involved in it until I came around. She would just have like my scripts sitting up on the little mantle or little shelf above the kitchen sink. And I can remember taking that first hydrocodone and going, wow, this is nice.
Yeah, it is.
And so when you have ACL, PCL reconstruction, they put you in this machine that literally flexes your leg for you so you don't atrophy, and it helps warm those tendons back up and get everything moving. I can remember my mom giving me my pill and going to bed and me going, well, this is what one feels like. I wonder what two would. And unstrapping myself out of this machine and crawling to the kitchen to get my pills and grabbing a couple of them and stashing them under my mattress.
See, I see how people do it. I understand. So I'm not trying to be judgmental, but to do methamphetamines blows me away because I can count on 0 fingers the number of people I know that are taking meth that have a good, that things are going right for them right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
guaranteed.
It's
meth and success do not go together.
No,
at all.
There's a lot of people that are on cocaine that are still thriving. Probably lots of them. People smoke dope every night, thriving. Methamphetamines, nope, none of them. That's what shocked me that you took methamphetamines as smart as you are. Now you go to counseling. The best counselors are ex-dope heads because because when some guy comes in there and he's giving you or a girl gives you some freaking excuse, you can see right through his bullshit because you've done that before and made the same excuse.
Yep. And that's one of the best things that I have found about being out on the other side is like being able to help people. Like, dude, I've been there because, growing up 19, 20, 21 years old involved in meth and nobody around me really understands what it's like to for what it is on the other side. Everybody around me at that point knew what it's like to be on meth because we were all on meth.
Yeah.
But there were never any hope, right, brought to us because everybody that was around us had been involved in it for years or was still, fucking everything up. And I remember going to treatment and going, this is fucking bullshit. The only reason I'm here is to get the courts off my back and to get, my girlfriend's parents off my back. Like that was my mentality going, right? The last time I was in a jail cell, I'm like, okay, I want to be done with this. Sure, I probably meant it at that time because I was in jail and I was miserable being in jail, tired of being there. But when I got to treatment, my mentality was completely different at that point because I'd been out of jail for a little bit, fucking up again. And it wasn't until they started bringing guys that started sharing stories similar to mine about like, not having a father, getting involved in drugs very young, in and out of jail, homelessness, all of these things. And all of this, they're sitting here in front of me, healthy, pretty jacked, talking about having their kids and enjoying life. And it's like, how the hell is this possible? Mm-hmm. Like it baffled me at that point to think that you could go from a mentality where my mindset during the last like 4 years of my addiction was literally like, I'm looking for somebody to put a bullet in me. Like I'm tired of this. I'm sick of being here. This is fucking, I'm over it. Like somebody just put me out of my misery. To now, I couldn't imagine even thinking about ending my life or having somebody in my life. I attempted to kill myself 3 times during addiction. I locked the firing pin out on my Taurus 40 one time and put the barrel to my head and it should have emptied the whole clip. But it misfired. Put a new firing pin in. I was in Wichita Falls, Texas at this time. Put a new firing pin in, chambered that same bullet, and shot it out of the window of the Holiday Inn Express in Wichita Falls. So like something was watching out for me.
Right.
And then 2016, 2017, I ran my girlfriend's pickup, Dodge 3500, Longhorn Laramie, all the bells and whistles. I ran it off of that really steep curve on East North 10th and Abilene that comes back out onto the loop. Mm-hmm. Pegged that thing out going down that road, windows down, very cliche, Freebird on the radio, and just sent it right off. Went through 2 concrete culverts. I got ejected from the vehicle. I turned a giant Longhorn Laramie 3500 dually into a crushed beer can. And then I think probably a year later, I tried to hang myself. And the only reason I didn't was because a buddy of mine literally came knocking on my apartment door at that time and was like, "Hey, I got something."
Wow.
That saved your life. What did you ever catch yourself trying to talk somebody out of buying dope from you that was buying dope, or did you not care?
that was one of the only like moral and philosophical convictions that I had that I stuck to. If you had never done methamphetamine, you are not getting it from me and you are not doing it with me.
Wow.
Because I always regretted and, to be honest, for a long time, hated the guys that gave me dope for the first time. Because even though I was intelligent, I was very naive to what this drug was and what this drug would cause. Even though I'd heard all the horror stories, but you know, we all let the dare line down. Let's be honest. But knowing what it led me to, like, I never wanted to be the person that put anybody into that situation. We call people like that in the drug world, we call them bad fish. Like the person that gives a person their first drug or their first shot or something like that. And that was something that I was never going to be a part of.
How many of those guys are still alive out of the ones that you done dope with first time or out of prison?
Two of them that I know. One of them actually just got out of prison not too long ago, and he's actually doing okay right now. I'm proud of him. And then the other one, there's one more that's out that's been clean for a long time. But they're the only two out of like 7 of us.
The rest of them are locked up?
Locked up or dead.
Yeah, that's pretty much the norm.
What injuries did you sustain whenever you drove your girlfriend's Dodge pickup off the overpass?
I fractured my spinal cord in 3 places. Probably a couple of broke ribs. They couldn't really tell because everything hurt. And then some lacerations and bruising. That's really it. When I got ejected from the car or from the truck, I landed in a ditch that was filled with water.
Wow.
So it cushioned my fall. And if it wouldn't have been for like this semi-truck driver that was, I'm talking 150 yards down the road, heard the wreck from his sleeper cab.
Jeez.
And came and ran down there. And if he wouldn't have found me, I probably would have drowned because I landed face down in this ditch of water.
Your poor mom. Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. One of the wildest stories one of the most impactful stories that I have about my mom, right? I'll never forget one of the final times that I called her from jail and she was like, I'm not getting you out this time. Of course, in that moment, I was heated, right? I've said probably some of the most vicious and malicious things I've ever said to her because I'm angry. I want her to get me out of jail. And it wasn't until I got sober and I looked back and it's like, well, of course she didn't want to get me out. When I was in jail, it was the only time she ever got any sleep.
Yep, that's right.
It was the only time she knew I was safe. Like I had a bed to sleep in, I had food to eat. And instead of me looking at it like that, because I was a, selfish asshole at the time, all I could see was her being mean to me. And dude, my mom has been one of the most forgiving people in my life. Showed me more grace that I probably deserve. And, it's just wild to me, the fact that I love her more than anybody on the face of this planet, next to my son, but I put her through more hell than most people receive their entire life. And that's just from the ages of 19 to 10 years, 19 to 29, 19 to 28, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Unconditional love. And that's, and there's a lot of, life sucks when jail is a safe place for your kid to be.
Right.
I mean, that kids, and there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
There are people right now that's got kids living on the streets in big cities, homeless people that would be, they would love for them to be locked up because they know that they're safe. I mean,
I know you're going to get fed tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's a deal. So how long would you be in jail before? Because when I'd magistrate people from jail, it was always funny. I'd get people that would get busted, like they get arrested one day, and I'd go that afternoon or the next day to go set their bond or something, and they were rude as hell. Yo, son bitch, blah, blah, blah. They cuss at you. They're mad. They're pissed. Then they'd get a secondary charge put on them, and so I'd go see them a week to 10 days later. Well, they're sober then. Completely different person. I mean, people are begging for mercy. I promise you. I had a girl one time tell me, she goes, Jeff, I promise I'll get a job. I'll take care of my kids. Blah, 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 blah. Just let me out. Well, here, we can put more bond on you. And then they get out and 3 months later, you're seeing them again in jail again. So until they get sober and do good. How long did it take to get sober while you were in jail? And could you get dope while you were in jail?
It depends on which jail I was going to. Stevens County, I don't know how to say this, but Stevens County, I could stay high in there. Other ones I couldn't because I didn't know the ins and outs of them because I wasn't there enough. But usually towards the end, like the last several times I went to jail, I didn't want to be high anymore. Mm-hmm. Because like this is when my mind started wrapping itself around like, oh, these are consequences because I'm a fuck up and I'm getting high. Why do I keep doing this? Right? It's the old Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, right? Repeating the same actions over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And for me as a drug addict, I took it even a step further, which is I'm repeating the same actions, even knowing what the end result is going to fucking be.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. This is what I need. I have to have this. This is like, that's my mindset around drugs and addiction.
What's the drying out process like in jail? I mean, is it pretty rough? You fucking hanging on to the edge of the earth by your fingernails and toenails? So anytime I went to jail, I wasn't too bad off on like heroin yet. It was usually like I had Xanax withdrawals or meth withdrawals. It's literally, I just want to sleep and eat. That's it. Right.
Like there's not really any pain or hurt that comes from detoxing off meth. Detoxing off meth is just an extended period for the mind, right? Like there's a lot of guys I know go through psychosis. This shit literally alters the chemical makeup of your brain. And if your chemical makeup of your brain is already kind of fucked, then it's just going to fuck you up even worse. Luckily, I wasn't one of those guys that got super throwed off in the head when I got high. In fact, like I could be having a conversation with you just like this, do a shot of dope, and still continue on having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas there were guys that would take 2 or 3 hits off the pipe, and all of a sudden there's fucking, police in the attic kind of shit. Like they're peeling back sheetrock because they're looking for the voices.
Yeah.
And my detoxes didn't get bad until I started detoxing off heroin, which the worst I had was when I went to treatment. So when I got out of jail, my girlfriend's parents, my now in-laws, God bless their hearts, put me up on the ranch basically because I called them one of the last times I was in jail, and I'm like, look, I'm a drug addict. I don't have anybody else to turn to. I have to have help. I'm sick of this. Like I'm either going to end up in prison the rest of my life or I'm going to kill myself. Like I have to have help and I don't know what to do. And mind you, at this time, they absolutely hated my guts. I was like shoot on sight if I stepped onto the ranch. Her dad is like one of the co-owners of Sons of Liberty Gun Company in San Antonio. So red-blooded gun-toting American.
Yeah.
And he was serious, like very serious about it. Him and his sons. And so when I made this call, I call from jail. I call my girlfriend and I'm like, hey, I need you to go out to the ranch. I just need you to put the phone down. I just need you to let me talk to him. Mm-hmm. She's like, okay, I will. So she drives out to the ranch and I call back on the jail phone and, give him this spill about like, hey, I'm a drug addict. Like, this is the reality of what's going on with me. I want to get help. I don't know who to turn to. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. So they ended up bonding me out, showing me more grace than, about as much grace as my mom has shown me.
Yeah.
And put me up on the ranch after they bonded me out, helped me get into treatment. And of course, because I'm a drug addict, I'm getting high the whole time. And at this point, like I knew I was going to treatment. I knew that I needed to fix things. But at that point I was like, do I really need to? Right. It's like the duality of being a drug addict. It's like, I want to be better, but I don't want to let this go. Like, can I be better with the drugs? Is that possible? Mm-hmm. Which it's not. And so I was like really, really heavy into like, for the 2 weeks I was on the ranch before I went to Ranch House Recovery in Austin, Texas. I was shooting meth and heroin. when we called them to get me in, they're like, "Hey, have you detoxed?" And I'm sitting right there next to my mother-in-law who thinks I've been sober since I got out of jail. And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I've detoxed in jail. I'm great." You know, I get out there. This is a non-medical facility, no nursing on staff, nothing like that. And I went through the worst heroin and meth withdrawals in combination. And of course, I'm sure there was like fentanyl in the heroin too. So I'm detoxed on fentanyl too. In this bunk bed in this room where they're pulling me out at like 10 o'clock in the morning to go work on the farm where I'm hoeing weeds, puking my guts up, trying not to shit myself. Oof. And me and my buddy who's like detoxing off Suboxone, who hadn't slept in 2 weeks, we're out there screaming slave labor. This is bullshit. Fucking miserable. It was the worst 2 weeks of my life. I couldn't sleep from the heroin withdrawals. I had restless leg syndrome, so I couldn't stop moving my legs or my feet because of heroin withdrawals. I'm starving and I'm exhausted from the meth withdrawals. I can't keep anything down. It's like the two worst combination that you could have.
And it took 2 weeks to get all that shit out of your system?
To get back to like feeling somewhat normal, yeah, like almost 2 weeks. The first like 4 or 5 days were really, really bad. Like literally no sleep at all for almost 72 hours, a little longer. And that's like on no drugs and can't keep anything down. Every time I try to eat something, it comes right back up. I'm shitting myself, just awful. And after that, it's just kind of what they call like residual side effects, which is like, now I'm nodding off all the time because I'm still exhausted. I'm still having trouble falling asleep. I can only sleep for like 2 or 3 hours a night. And by this time, they're like, okay, well, you're well enough that you can come work out in the field with us and you can come work in the farm side of the treatment center. Because mind you, this treatment center is attached to a nonprofit called Simple Promise Farms. And you work with animals. You work on the farm. You're hoeing weeds. You're planting. You're running tractors. You're running chainsaws, cutting wood. And I'm doing all this on detoxing off meth, heroin, and fentanyl.
Probably not the safest thing. It's probably not the safest way to do this.
No, but it's tough love, and you can't get away.
It stuck.
So
I'm telling you,
was that the only treatment facility that you went to? Just that one, or had there been others that didn't take?
No, that's the only one. I was a one and I want to say one and done, but I did have a relapse 6 months after I got out, for about 2 weeks. So when I got out of treatment, I was in Austin, sober living, doing all that, doing great. And I got the bright idea that like, oh, I want to move back home, right? I'm still facing these charges, right? I'd racked up charges in 3 other counties at this point, plus my motion to adjudicate in Stevens was still hanging over my head. And I'm like, well, I want to spend time with my family in case I have to go to prison. Yeah. So I want to move back home. Well, when I moved back home, my entire support system when it comes to recovery is gone. My accountability is gone. And my recovery went to shit. Like I quit going to meetings, quit doing anything as far as like my recovery was concerned, quit doing everything. And it wasn't maybe a few days before I was like driving by the old dope man's house, just kind of trying to like come up with a reason to stop. Until I guess it was about maybe 2 weeks later, I finally stopped and was like, all right, here we go. And the first 3 minutes of that high were great. Then I got into my car and I realized what I had just done. And I got so fucking depressed and pissed off at myself. Now I'm using for the next 2 weeks just to try and get away from the guilt and shame that I accumulated from getting high that first time.
Right.
And it took me like, you know, a buddy of mine from Austin calls me and he's like, I wouldn't answer the phone. So he calls my now wife. She brings me the phone and she's like, Connor's on the phone for you. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to him. And she's like, then shut the fuck up and listen. Sets the phone down. And he's like, dude, I'm coming to get you. You're coming back to Austin. I got a bed in a sober living for you. I got a job lined up for you. You're bringing your ass back down here. And of course I'm trying to weasel my way. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll drive down there tomorrow. And he's like, no, bitch. Pack your shit. I'm coming to get you today. Yeah. And got back down here and have been sober ever since. My sober date is June 6th. of 2021.
That's fantastic. What was the did you ever like OD anytime?
Did I what?
Did you ever overdose?
Yes. Actually, I OD'd one time, and if it wasn't for Alyssa walking in on me and finding me, I'd probably be dead.
Really?
We were. I was literally camping out in her office. She had like an esthetician salon there in Abilene, and I was like living out of it at night because I was homeless. And I was sitting at her desk, and I did a shot, and because she had, I think, went to go grab food or drinks or something, and when she got back, she found me slumped over on the fucking desk, like fucking dying.
What did she do to bring you? Go to the emergency room?
Yeah.
Straight to the emergency room, and then they administer the. What do they give you whenever you've OD'd? Is there anything? Is it Narcan?
Narcan, yeah. Narcan's what they use.
One of the greatest inventions ever.
It's funny. There's an ongoing joke in recovery. It's like Narcan fixes everything. It's like, oh, you have relationship problems. Narcan it.
Yeah. What's that
financial issues? Narcan.
What's that like whenever they administer the Narcan and then all of a sudden you've gone from this high state to? Are you completely
Not
sober?
Good. No. Like, I mean, you're not sober, but I can't. It's hard for me to describe how it feels because it's the worst. It's the worst feeling ever because you're literally coming back from the brink of death.
Right.
And if you know anybody that is drowned, when you resuscitate them, they vomit all over the place. It's the same process. And it's not only that because it destroys the high, and it's bad. It's one of the worst feelings.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple paramedics, and they always say you administer it and then you get the fuck out of the way. Number one, they might come up swinging, but they're definitely going to puke.
Yep. And because there's a lot of guys that I know from treatment that intentionally OD'd that were brought back by Narcan that as soon as they woke up, they started fighting everybody because they were pissed.
Right.
Because like, bitch, let me die.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked to somebody, and they administered Narcan and on the ambulance, and they fucking opened the back door and ran away.
Out. Yeah, ran away.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, well, there goes
and a lot
one.
of that's fear, too, because, you know, there's such a stigma with addicts and, like, law enforcement that a lot of them, when they come in and they're like, yeah, they tried to resuscitated me, and I ran because I didn't want to get charged. You know, not a bunch of them aren't aware of the fact that if they're dead and they're resuscitated by paramedics, unless there's like a bunch of shit laying around, like they can't be charged with anything. But they're so terrified of that because of the stigma that goes with what an addict is that they run.
Oh, right. Because they're afraid they're going to get charged. Now, one story that I had heard, and this might just be small town rumors, did they stick you in like a bathtub of ice one time? No, there was never one of the, small town gossiping.
I never heard this story.
Well, just that you had taken something and you were in such a state that the only way to get you to come back, they dumped a bunch of bath.
No, they didn't stick me in a bathtub of ice, but they did stick me in the shower.
In the shower? What did you take it?
Yeah, and turned cold water on me. So I'd been on like this 3 or 4 day bender.
Overheating.
And it ended. When it ended, I was at a buddy's house. Like found me slumped over on the toilet because I'd been in there for like an hour and was like, I don't think I was dead, but I was definitely incoherent and unconscious. And he like threw me in a bathtub and turned the cold water on me. And
it worked, I guess.
I mean, it woke me up. But there's also like, when you go through withdrawals really bad, a lot of times hot showers help. And so there were several times that I'd be going through withdrawals because I couldn't get any dope at the time, that I would go and lock myself in a room, like walk myself in the bathtub and just kind of like throw up all over myself in the bathtub while let hot water run over me. So combination of those two stories, I'm sure in small town gossip, has turned into
an ice bath.
Yeah. Somebody stole his kidneys and they put him on ice.
Yeah, they were going down to the ice shack and just bought the whole ice shack out of ice.
I'm assuming your father-in-law was not a real big fan of yours for a long time.
No, yeah, like I said, I was shoot on sight. He absolutely detested me. And with with good reason. You know, I put his daughter in situations that she never should have been in, dangerous, you know, because I had a record. She had a clean record and a clean car and a clean license. You know, I had her drive me to Fort Worth to go do pickups, or Oak Cliff, Texas, to go do pickups in South Dallas. And it's fucking, I look back on it now and I'm like, what the fuck were you really thinking, dude?
Right.
How'd you meet her?
Funny story. I had just gotten out of jail. This is the first time I ever went to jail, but it wasn't for drugs. It was, I had a really bad come down and I got in a fight with my stepdad and ended up in Benjamin. After I got out of jail, I kind of straightened my shit up and I was doing better. And we just we linked up on Tinder.
Oh, nice.
She had just divorced her husband and was moved back to Abilene from Amarillo. And we were both each other's like first Tinder date. And it stuck, like, and worked.
She was looking for that bad boy. She got out of jail.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that too. That's tough. Where you been? I've been in jail.
Been in jail.
Yep.
Something tells me I probably should run
too. Like, you know, when I'll never forget. She pulls up right in this 3500 Dodge Standard diesel, and I'm like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. We go and pick up a rack of Keystones. And we just went out back roading. And I'll never forget, we pulled underneath the Benjamin Bridge, right? And I pull out this old corncob pipe and some weed. And I'm like, look, if you're going to be around me and if anything's going to happen between us, you need to know I smoke pot. Like, I'm a fucking pothead. And smoked in front of her. And she was like, all right.
Whatever you need, baby.
So she didn't go. So she didn't try to change you at first.
No, not at all. And even, I'll never forget, because I told her all about my history. Like, I had a past with meth. Like, I have a history with drugs and in trouble. And when we got together, I was actually doing really well. I was working for Dale Turner as a hand for him, doing carpentry work. And then I ended up landing a job with TGM. Or no, I think I actually started working for a plugging company out of Jasper, Texas, on a pulling unit. And then I moved to TGM out of Abilene. So during the first big chunk of our relationship, I was doing really well. And I was just drinking beer and smoking weed. I pretty much told myself I'd sworn off meth. I wasn't going to do that shit anymore. And I'll never forget when I lost my job at TGM. I came back home, and of course, the first place I went was to Breckenridge. And she knew all my buddies there because I'd introduced them because, we'd all drink together and smoke weed together. And I was there for a couple of days at my buddy's house, and we had gotten spun off. And I remember sitting in the bathroom at his house because she was supposed to be coming to pick me up, but my phone was off. And I'm sitting there literally smoking a bowl, like getting high on meth. And I see her walk around the corner and she sees me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I was waiting for it. And she just she kneeled down next to me and she was like, how long has this been going on? And I told her the truth. I'm like, it's been going on for a few weeks now. Like, I've been kind of dabbling anytime I come here. And she's like, okay, well, we need to get this fixed. And from there, I did okay for a while. And then it just started getting bad again. And I think by that time, she always saw potential in me and what I could be, even though I didn't see it in myself. And that's what she has stuck to this, our entire relationship. In fact, at one point, my mom tried to run her off, was like, you do not need to be with him. He's no good for you. He's no good for himself. And she would tell him, y'all don't see in him what I see in him. He's fucked up right now because something's wrong. And until he gets what's wrong fixed or handled, he's never going to reach his potential. But I see the potential he has. And, we were kind of on and off for a while because I would break things off because I would feel guilty about dragging her through the shit I was going through. And, but then, of course, my selfishness, I missed her. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I can do this without, maybe we can do this without me giving up the drugs. And it never worked out.
Yeah.
so we were on and off for a long time, which caused a lot of, turmoil and trauma between the both of us. But, we've spent a lot of time since I went to treatment working on it. And, we've been married for 2 years, a little over 2 years now. Man, life's good. Life's good.
Yeah, man, you gotta have that support system. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You gotta have a reason to you gotta have somebody that believes in you, because if you're going through that alone, you're just gonna keep spiraling, right? Like if you don't have somebody, if you don't have that one cheerleader, and I'm sure that was part of the reason she stayed there, is like, I don't want to leave him and be the reason that he goes off and fucking does something that he can't take back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then that's something that she has to live with for the rest of her life. Like, man, if I'd have just stuck with him a little bit longer, maybe we could have seen what it is today.
Yep.
Rather than that fucking pistol going off on the side of your head.
And to be honest, like, the way you stated that, you're exactly right. Because if it wouldn't have been for her sticking by my side through all of that, I would have never even had the courage or the want to ask for anybody to help me to go to treatment.
Yeah.
Which that was four and a half years ago when I went to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
4 years. So it's like, if I wouldn't have gotten help then, where would I be at now?
I think we all know.
Yeah, and you have to have a sober influence. Misery loves company, and that's what's so bad about. That's one thing I will say about rehab places. It's a terrible place to meet your spouse.
Rehab romances never last.
No,
they're terrible. It's just a bunch of trauma bonding.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, and I'm sure there are some success stories from rehab romances, but most of them are two people got the same issues, and they get out, and the first time they have problems, one of them wants to go back to drugs, and the next thing you know, we'll do this with me if you love me, and then boom, we got two dopeheads again.
Yeah,
exactly. And working in treatment, I've seen that more times than I can count. How did
you get back in the good graces of your in-laws? Action, I guess.
He's still working on it,
dude. Actively just walking the walk,
right?
And not fucking up anymore. What? Let's be honest. I still fuck shit up. Like, I'm good at that.
Yeah,
always have been.
We all
are. But it's just following through and doing what I need to do. So one of the part of the process of recovery, there's a step 9 is amends, right? So you're basically going to people you've wronged in your past and sitting down with them, like telling them, like, look, I know I did this, and this. Like, is there anything I left out? And then they literally have the opportunity to hammer you and tell you exactly everything that you've ever fucking done, exactly how you made them feel. And I remember leaving treatment and like freaking out about this amends process with her parents. And I'm like, oh God, her dad's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Like, amends with her dad is what I was more worried about than anything, because going to treatment and doing the right thing. And of course, my mother-in-law was getting updates from my mentor and like my counselor there. And so she saw me doing good. So there was a little more kind of leniency with her than there was with Ed at this time. And so I wasn't worried about the amends with Lisa at all. I was like, that's going to go smooth. She already likes me again. It's okay. Let me tell you, exact opposite.
Oh, she's the one that hammered you.
I sat down with Ed, and Ed is one of those old school cowboys. It's like, man of very, very few words. And after I got done with my whole spiel, I was waiting for him to just unload on me. And he's like, look, I don't want to hear you talk about it. I just want to see you do it. That's it. Yeah. That's all he said. And I'm like, okay, yes, sir.
Not that bad.
And then I get into the amends with her mom, and it's 3 hours later. I'm crying, she's crying, and I'm like ugly crying because she has made me feel about this small. Because I couldn't wrap my head around everything that I had caused her, not only her, but her family. Like, the stuff that I put Alyssa through, doesn't just affect her. It affects her family, everybody that she cries to when I hurt her, everybody that, she's had to depend on to get over what I've done. And like, I had no idea the magnitude of what my actions caused for this family.
Yeah.
And it's been, it's been a steady climb. Like I've had to show up, I've had to, follow through with what I say, and I've had to do the right things. And honestly, it hasn't been hard.
Yeah. And then do you find bodybuilding in treatment? Cause you said some of the guys that were coming in were pretty jacked. Was that like your first inkling of, hey, maybe I can go down this path and help me stay on this sober train?
Actually, no. So I got back into working out when I was in treatment. When I showed up, I was super nervous about being there because Lisa, my mother-in-law, had driven me 4 hours down to Austin, and I'm like, there's no way she's taking me back up there if I don't like this place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a huge God moment. We pull up, and I get out, and there's like a bunch of tattooed, long-haired, pretty jacked guys all lifting weights, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'll fit in here. And so got back into the gym and working out there. But when I got out of treatment, when I moved into sober living, I kind of abandoned everything. And then I had that short relapse. And when I moving back to Austin, I got super depressed because one, I fucked up and I relapsed and I had to change my date. And, it was kind of very, very, it was very hurtful to myself. And then I started working in treatment, and I worked a 3 to 11 shift. So at this point, like, I'm sleeping until 12 in the afternoon, getting up, going to work, eat lunch there, eat dinner there. Then I'd get off work at 11, stop at a fast food joint, pick up food, go home, watch TV to eat food, watch TV. And I had a really bad habit with Oreos and milk. And I got up to like 240 pounds of very, very unhealthy weight. And it wasn't until I got a job managing a sober living in the like middle of downtown Austin that was literally a block away from a 24-hour fitness where I got a gym membership too for being the manager. And so I started getting back into working out. One of the guys that I worked with in treatment, one of my best friends, he's like super into fitness, been lifting for a long time, giving me pointers, helping me out with like diet and, teaching me how to track calories, track macros, weigh my food out, all of these things. And he kind of set the basis for me for like me getting healthy. And then I picked up a sponsor. And I remember sitting down with him, and he's like jacked, tatted up, very similar stories. And so I went to lift with him one time, and he was actually, he was a bodybuilder. So my second sponsor in AA was a bodybuilder, and I started lifting with him because we'd meet up to kind of talk and whatever, and we'd go work out afterwards. And he introduced me to a bunch of bodybuilding buddies, kind of introduced me into the culture, and I fell in love with it. And I started working with him as not only my sponsor, but coach. And he took me through my first cut, took me through my first bulking. And after we went through that first growth stage, I was like, I want to step on stage. Like, I want to do this. And he's like, let's pull the trigger.
Right.
So then we went into my first prep. We got to about 3 or 4 weeks out, and my current coach and sponsor ended up catching rhabdo, which is like a really, really bad disease, like can kill you.
Yes.
And so he kind of went off the grid for a while. And then I reached out to an IFBB pro that I had met here in Austin and asked him to take me through the rest of my prep. And he was such a godsend when it came to bodybuilding that I've stuck with him since. And now he's actually a posing client of mine. And he's got a really good shot at making the Olympia this year too.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah.
How do you get rhabdo from bodybuilding? Just overworking your muscles?
Overworking your muscles. It typically happens, especially when you're on like PEDs.
Oh, okay.
If you overwork and your nutrition isn't dialed in and things, like your body will literally start kicking it back and start disintegrating the muscle. And what it does is the muscle tissue and all that like toxic shit bleeds into the bloodstream. So it fucks up your kidneys, fucks up your liver. And it's like, yeah, it's really bad. There's a bunch of guys that have died from it.
What do you do if you get, number one, how do you know you have rhabdo? And then what do you do once you get it?
I wouldn't know. The only reason he knew he had it is because he got super sick and ended up going to the hospital, which is like something that, like we don't typically do. But he felt bad enough to go to the hospital, and that's where they diagnosed him. And it's just been he's still struggling with it.
Like your muscles start to liquefy, don't they?
Pretty much, yes. They liquefy and basically leak into the rest of the body system, into the organs.
You turn septic.
And toxify the organs.
Fuck, I didn't know that was a thing. I knew you could get it.
Yeah.
I knew you could get it like marathon runners and everything like that. And I guess it makes sense why bodybuilders could too, just the amount of stress that you're putting on your body and your muscles. So I guess that makes sense. So you're taking 25 off of competing, you're bulking, gaining 30, 35 pounds. And then when's going to be your first competition in 26?
That I'm not sure. So they just put together NPC, which is the National Physique Committee, which is amateur bodybuilding. IFBB Pros professional. NPC just put a show together out in Lubbock for this year. And it's the first year they've had one out there. And so I'm really tempted to hit that show next season, which it's going to be around in October, but I'll probably hit another one in probably early 2026.
How long?
Not quite sure yet.
Right. And then, so when do you start cutting?
So what we'll do is we'll pick a show. We'll figure out what show we want to do. And then based on body composition, we'll plan either a 16 or a 20-week prep.
Fuck. 5 months?
And yeah. And everybody hears 5 months and they're like, oh shit, that sounds terrible. The first month or two, it's really not bad. You're still pretty high in calories. Like, in fact, I'm eating 3,700 and I'm still having trouble like putting on weight right now. So, I could drop down to 3,200 and probably lose 10 pounds. That's still quite a bit of food.
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't, prep isn't rough until you get towards like the end, like the last about 10 to 2 weeks out. That 8-week span right there is pretty rough. Calories are super low. Cardio is probably pretty high.
What do you say pretty low? What are you talking? How much are you eating those last 8 weeks a day?
The lowest I've ever gone was 1,400.
What are we talking? What are you eating? Give a meal, because you can eat.
We're talking 5 meals a day. The first meal is usually probably just whey protein and water.
That's a meal.
Yeah. And some almond butter. Excuse me, a little almond butter in there too. And then your second meal is going to be like 100, like maybe one chicken breast, if that, maybe a half, depending on the weight, and then like 4 or 5 stalks of asparagus, and then like a half a cup of rice, maybe a cup. It's very, very minuscule. Yeah. So like right now I'm eating, one of my meals is 185 grams of protein plus 400 grams of my carb source. That meal in prep would look like 100 grams of protein, 50 grams of vegetable, just kind of for filler, and then maybe 100 grams of rice, sometimes 50 grams.
So it says right here you need about 3,000 calories a day. So 1,600, that's about half of what you need. And I'm sure you're still working out, and your water is getting cut. So you're doing everything that you would normally do on half the calories and not as much water.
Yes, and let me tell you, last prep was brutal. Like, there were days I come into work, and my boss at the time that ran that treatment center, he's a bodybuilder too, and he's competed before, and he'd gone through prep. He would see me and be like, dude, just go home. He's like, you look terrible. I'm like, I feel terrible. It's in bodybuilding, it's the worse you feel, the better you look.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And that's so crazy. Mentality. And that's so crazy too, because like any other sport, you want to go into your competition day feeling the best that you feel the whole training camp. And with bodybuilding, it'd be like the complete opposite.
Yeah, you feel like absolute dog shit until you weigh in. Once you weigh in, then your carb load starts. Then you're literally slamming, 500 grams of rice, 4 or 5 bagels. Like you're trying to load all of your muscles back up because you're flat and depleted to make weight. Trying to load them all back up with glycogen and fill them out. That way, when you step on stage, you're full and big and you feel good.
When do you weigh in? Like if you compete on Saturday, when's the weigh-in?
Weigh-ins are usually around 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. So like for competition, I would drive into my hotel Thursday night, get settled, because that next morning at like 6 a.m. I'm going to get tanned. Right. I'm going to get my tan done. And then I'm hanging out for a little bit. I'll eat one meal, and then weigh-ins, depending on if like where I'm at my weight cap, which I was under, so I got to eat. But there's guys that, they're treading that line on weight cap so bad that they can't drink any water, they can't eat any meals for 12 hours before weigh-ins. And then as soon as you get done, then it's time to get a little bit of water and then start eating.
So you have a day basically to replenish yourself a little bit.
Yeah. It's almost kind of like MMA.
Right.
They have weigh-ins, and then as soon as they get done with weigh-ins, unless it's a certain sanctioned event where you don't get to do that, typically they get to eat and kind of bulk back up before the actual fight.
How much weight will you gain that day?
I gained when I weighed in at 183, I think. I stepped on stage at like 189.
So 5 to 6 pounds.
And then the end of that night after competition, I bet I weighed in at like 206.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
All the bullshit I ate, it was terrible, dude. It was miserable. I'm never doing that again.
So what do you have to do to go pro? Is this the end goal, is to go professional bodybuilding?
That's just one of the milestones.
Okay.
Because I got started so late, my longevity in the sport is going to be a little better than most guys that started when they're 19, 20 years old. But first milestone, of course, is pro card. And to do that, I would have to win an overall. I don't have to win an overall at a regional show, but win an overall at a regional show, it gets you your entry to nationals. And then you have to win nationals to receive your pro card. And there's 5 or 6 shows that are considered like national shows that offer pro cards. They're kind of spaced out in between the season all year round. And then from there, it would be earn your pro card, do whatever your coach wants you to do. Typically for most guys, because when they win their pro card, they're super undersized compared to actual pros. Mm-hmm. So they'll take like a year off to add on size and then do their pro debut the next year. Right. And then from there, it's, my goal is to step on the Olympia stage, whether it's in open classic physique or whether it's, masters, which is like 35 and up or 40 and up. Either way, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like just to be able to say I've stepped on the Olympia stage, I've competed at Olympia, like that is my end goal is I'm going to take this as far as my body's going to let me.
Right. How realistically, how many shows can you compete in a year?
I've known guys that compete in like 6 or 7 a year.
Oh, fuck.
But then, yeah. And then there's other guys that might do 2 or 3.
Right.
Most NPC athletes, because NPC you have to pay entry to get into the shows to compete. Yeah. As a pro, you don't. So a lot of pros, they'll do multiple shows. Like I think my coach did 4 last year. Because they're going to try and, it's a numbers game, like who's going to show up to what show. So if you show up to a show where there's like, it's stacked, you might be able to make a different show where it's not as stacked to get that Olympia qualification. Right. But as an NPC athlete, you have to pay to enter. And it's like it's usually like $125 per category or per division you enter in. And so I know guys that they'll do like 1 regional show and then they'll compete at nationals if they qualify, or they'll do like 2 regional shows throughout the year and 1 national show. That's usually about the extent. I think is like 2 regional shows and a national show is usually about the most amateurs compete.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine doing all that 6 times a year. 2 to 3, that sounds more doable. I couldn't imagine going through that whole process 4, 5, 6 times a year.
It's also like at a strategic point, it's like, okay, do we want to pick a show that's, this close to national? So we'll kind of peak you here and then we'll maintain and then we'll go into this show.
Right.
your coach might also want you to do multiple shows to do a different peaking process to see if you come out looking better with a different process compared to, what you ran at a different show.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, dude, it's been a hell of a podcast. We really appreciate you coming on here and being as open as you were.
Of course.
It's a testament to the kind of man that you are, being able to turn everything around. I mean, you're a lucky guy. You're lucky to be here. You've got a hell of a support system, and it really is. It's a feel good story to hear whenever guys like you have gone through what you've gone through, and then now all of a sudden, through some right decisions and a good support group, you're thriving now, man. So we're rooting you on, dude.
Thank you. And I appreciate y'all having me on here. It's been awesome.
Man, Skyler, I'm proud of you. Keep it up. God bless you. And God bless your family, your wife and her family, and your mom and Mingo and all them. Love you, man. And you keep up the good work. And like I said, we're really proud of you where you're going, and keep getting that word out and fixing other people's problems.
Can't wait to see you on the Olympia stage.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Right.
Bye, guys.
See ya. Bye.
Skyler Eades. Little fat boy down the street. I never would have ever pictured him as doing meth or being a bodybuilder. If you'd have told me when he'd come walking up when he's 14 on the front porch and stuff, I'd be outside, and you'd said, that boy right there's going to be a bodybuilder, I'd have said, there's no damn way.
What would you believe more? He's going to be a drug addict or a bodybuilder? Which one are you going to believe more?
I would have never thought either one of those.
Yeah.
I always figured he'd end up being an accountant. He's a sharp kid.
He's a very smart kid.
I never thought he would take the path that he took at all. Never in a million years, either way. So God bless him and his mom. I know it
happens all over the country.
And she was really, really proud he was going to be on the podcast. I saw her at the post office yesterday and we talked for a while. So anyways, I'm
something
glad.
to be proud of there.
He's done a really good job, and we all have different paths we take, and his road had a lot more forks in it than some people, but he's in a good place. So God bless him. And thank y'all for listening to it, and God bless y'all. Y'all have a great week.
Love you. Bye. Check out all of our sponsors. Go check out the Looking Glass podcast. Well, head over to their Patreon right now. Lucky Duck, Mossberg, Stanfield Outfitters, Mallard Bay, Mitchell Chevrolet, Chin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Ducks Unlimited, Boss Shot Shells, and Pacific Calls. Use our promo code BHP25.